we also have some finality. We've got an actual settlement, as former Duke quarterback Darian Mensah has settled with Duke. That came out on Tuesday. Then later in the day, after taking a visit to Miami, he committed to the Miami Hurricanes. So now this is all settled. This is behind us. How are you moving forward as we start to think about the saga that was between Darian Mensah, Duke, and the Miami Hurricanes?
I feel a little bit torn talking about this because as a Florida State guy, I think, you could have assumptions that I wouldn't want to see this, or I would have this take because it benefits Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate this for our sport. I hate this for college football. I hate that it is one more aspect of our sport which looks like it has no protections against. Like, you would think in theory that you've got a contract, a 2-year deal, that should protect a school from losing a player. And yet here we are. Duke comes out and they have this statement that they put out. And essentially, it sounds like they were like, you know what? It's not really worth it. We're probably going to lose anyway. So they will do what's best for the student athlete, right? But that is clearly not what went on. They weren't going to win and they knew it. So it just, to me, makes it more murky, where everything we've got, every guardrail, which I think is the term they've used, is really only suggestions. Like, good luck. Let's try to abide by these. But if you're a school that really needs a quarterback and you're a little bit desperate and you got extra money to spend, then by all means shop away wherever you want. And this really does put Duke behind the 8 ball. I know they went out and signed a quarterback, but this just really puts them in a tough spot. They had one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC, if not the country, for 2 weeks of the transfer portal. I'm sure they were a little bit worried and keeping aware of the situations, but ultimately,
listen to Tom Fornelli. Tom Fornelli told you if you have a quarterback,
we all said that. But I don't even think any one of us were like, Duke is a viable option because he was getting $4 million over, $8 million over 2 years. I think all of us would have been like, well, thankfully for Duke, they can feel pretty good. Well, as we've learned now, I don't think anybody should sleep safe, and sleep comfortably, feeling like your roster is completely set. It's a mess.
Cooper Barkate also took the visit with him. So that means if you are Duke, to your point, you thought you had Darian Mensah, you thought you had Nate Shepard, the very talented young running back, you thought you had Cooper Barkate, you thought you had a core as the reigning ACC champions to be able to go into 2026 to try to go make a run at it again. Now it's a very, very different outlook. And I do wonder if some of this is, for the future. I've heard bits and pieces of this, that when a player is deciding to leave in this world of freedom of movement, that sometimes being more player forward is a way to be able to, allow yourself for future players. Like you're saying, okay, look, we are going to show that we are on your side. And that's what the statement read to me, You've always been in support of players being able to capitalize on themselves. It's them trying to save face to make it look like, hey, don't go to Duke because, they're going to go crazy and sue you and take all your money if things don't go well. They want to at least make sure that they seem very much in the corner of the player for the future players that they're going to be trying to attract with NIL.
And I remember the first year of NIL when there were some question marks about what it would look like. And Bud has been one that's been all over it since day one, was like, what school wants to sue your own player? To prevent him from going somewhere else, because it is a bad PR look. I think schools are getting more aggressive. I think they're trying. Again, I think this is more about Duke realizing they couldn't win, so they said, let's just cut ties, and then you save face. But at some point, somebody's got to step up and do the, quote, right thing and fight one of these players. And I just think Duke realized it was a fight they couldn't win, so they said, let's just cut ties. It stinks. It just really does. Do you think there is more, or do you think there was more outrage over Damon Williams and Washington because of the rumors around Lane Kiffin? Or do you think this is getting the same attention? I feel like that situation got a lot more buzz. Maybe it's because it was early in the portal. It was, before the national championship game. This one was. There was a lot of news surrounding it. But I feel maybe that's because it was Lane Kiffin. But this one, I feel like most people are like, player left Duke, no shock in football, to go play at a better football program. But I almost feel like it's become accepted now that, yep, this is how it is.
I think that this one actually has gotten more run, and I am biased, of course, because of where I am, but I think it's gotten more run because of the litigation and how long this, like, it started when you were still at the national championship game a week ago, right? So this was a story that has continued to have other layers and other steps all the way to the final commitment to Miami, which is where I think a lot of us thought that it was going to be eventually. I think that this one was more informative. The Damon Williams spiked in interest because it was LSU, because it was early in the portal, because of Lane Kiffin and all those things. But this one, I think, was a little bit got more attention because it actually involved going to court. It actually involved, let's pull these things out. Let's see what's possible. What's the word? A stress test. It was a stress test for the system. The Damon Williams never got to that point, right? So it was, I would say that this did get more attention than Damon Williams, but only because of the length of how long the saga went on and because of the steps that it went to get there. It unfortunately leaves us in that sort of cynical position. Like you said, as a fan, it was like, okay, well, I guess if you're the little bank, you're just screwed.
Right. And the stress test failed. Like, I guess that's what you would say. Like, your stress test failed. The system once again proved to be absolutely manipulated by money and programs that have more power and more status. And then the next thought that comes to my mind, because I just want these to be done. We're all like, oh, the portal's closed. Okay, this is it. Let's put it to bed. In my mind, I'm like, who's going to be prevented if it's not working out in spring ball with whatever quarterback you spent millions on and he gets hurt or he's not happy, or you have a quarterback that you were banking on, but something happens. Who's to say that somebody doesn't get plucked from a roster that's a starter, group of 6 or power 4, and you just say, well, we're willing to pay. Let's just fight it again. Like, that's my mind goes to immediately. Like, prepare yourself for more of these types of situations. If a team is in desperate need for a player, they'll figure out a way to go get one.
Yeah, we spent some time. Obviously, the Nico story was a big one, but we did spend some time with that spring portal window last year. We do not technically have a spring portal window, but like you said,
technically,
we'll see what ends up coming out there. Okay, now if we have to compartmentalize, right? I mean, it's what we have to do in our job. So let's shut that, and we're going to talk about Miami's schedule and the ACC schedules in a little bit. But if I'm to shut that door and just look, Miami's got a really fun offense for 2026.
Yeah.
You got Mark Fletcher back. You've got Malachi Toney back. You've got Darian Mensah running the offense. You've got, we talked about Cooper Barkate. I mean, the whole wide receiver room is really, really loaded. Pringle jumped in the portal, but ended up coming back. So he's going to be back, a very talented young running back. I mean, the ACC champs are bust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be the preseason ACC favorite. I think they're upgrading at quarterback. I think he is better than Carson Beck. I think it's similar because he has struggled with some turnovers at times, but I think he has less baggage in big games than Carson Beck did. He doesn't have the injury history that Carson Beck did. I think he'll be able to execute this offense at a very high level. He's already played in 2 different offenses and excelled in both of them. I think this is a great move for Miami. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the portal that were available.
Yeah.
And when we talked about the quarterbacks in the portal, I was like, I don't know if I really love any of them. Darian Mensah might have been my favorite quarterback in the portal. Like, from what I've seen with him, playing with less around him.
Yeah.
Over Sorsby, over Levitt, who I think are good players, but if in a quarterback class, which no one really blows me away, I would say Darian Mensah is right up there. I really like Mestamaker a lot. Of course, his story was kind of already written, him going to Oklahoma State with Eric Morris. But I think Mensah's my top guy coming out, and Miami was able to land him. And I also think, this has been what a lot of schools have done, but clearly Miami has had no problem getting one and dones, like guys just to come in for 1 year. We'll spend all that money, but we know there's probably a floor on what you're going to bring. Like, the bottom's not going to drop out. We'll build around you. and try to do it again, run it back. And it's a formula that's worked. This will be the third year that they'll be trying to do it. And you could argue, Cam Ward's year, they were right there for the college football playoff and the ACC championship and collapsed down the stretch. But it's worked. This will be the third year in a row if it does, and I think it will.
Darian Mensah with 34 passing touchdowns on the season. That was tied for second, only behind Fernando Mendoza. And Danny, like you, I had to do the check here because he had some very inopportune turnovers, but the full season body of work, because like we remember the UConn game, right?
Right.
That's the one where you can't get it out of your mind. But the full season body of work, only 6 interceptions, 34-6. Mendoza was 41-6. Had a very, very good season. And he had to, in that offense, I think probably throw a lot and do a lot more, kind of like what you're saying. This will be a different approach for him, but to know that he can go out there and be a playmaker and put the offense on his back. I'm excited. Like I'm legitimately excited. I think the Miami Hurricanes are going to kind of be like a little bit of a rock star type team to follow because of the run they went on, what it means moving forward. I think there's going to be a buzz about this group that's going to make it very, very fun to follow in 2026 as they try to win the ACC title, which, and someone in the tailgate pointed this out earlier, Darian Mensah could win 3 conference titles in 3 different three conference titles with 3 different teams and 2 different.
There you go. Yes. Which would be pretty insane. That's 2026 in a nutshell in college football.